As if the McCrispy couldn't get any better, Bacon and Ranch just entered the chat. The Bacon Ranch McCrispy, available at participating McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
NIL Now with Lauren Sisler and Kevin Jones.
If you want to learn more about name, image, and likeness, you need to go to The Source. The NIL Now podcast from Headline Studio and Reddit highlights the biggest storylines with comments from key guests in the college and high school NIL space.
NIL is not a cherry on top. It needs to be thought about as a part of these young men and women's future to, further their careers. You should be able to leave college with something.
Subscribe to NIL Now on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Well, this is a podcast I've been excited about for some time, and what better day to do it than Friday? If you're wondering what that is our first live NFL mock draft on this podcast using the Pro Football Focus Simulator, as we're going to do a 7-round mock draft, picking all of the Bengals picks as we discuss them together on this podcast and make it look good and have fun with it. Welcome into another pre-draft edition of the Strictly Stripes podcast. Muhammad Ahmad, Andrew Gillis, and Mike Nizick here with you to wrap up the week with an exciting bang. Just a reminder, before we start, make sure you sign up for our Strictly Stripes newsletter. Go to cleveland.com/newsletters and click on the Strictly Stripes newsletter to sign up. It's free. It's in your inbox every morning, and it's well worth it. Again, cleveland.com/newsletters. So, guys, we've got the PFF simulator loaded up. All three of us can see it on our screens. So we're going to start. We're going to see how other teams make their selections. And then once we get to the Bengals picks, we're going to look at the options on the board, kind of look at who we wish was on the board, and then we're just going to make our picks from there and keep it rolling. So we have it set up. We have the settings. We are entering the draft as we speak. We are not going to have any drafts to start. It's asking if we want to offer any trades. We do not. So let us start. All right, so the teams are picking. All right, we are on the clock. We are on the clock with the 28th overall pick in the first round. So just to kind of give you an idea of who's off the board, so look at that. No Dalton Kincaid, no Michael Mayer, no Brian Breesy, no Kalijah Kancey, and no Bijan Robinson. So the best running
Bijan
back.
Robinson to Baltimore, by the way, is objectively hilarious.
That's funny. Yeah, he went to Baltimore. Michael Mayer to Notre Dame. Brian Breesy to Dallas. So the Bengals were just 2 picks off from maybe getting him. So pretty much some of the best players are off. So options available. We've got Anton Harrison from Oklahoma, Will McDonald, edge rusher from Iowa State, Zay Flowers, Emmanuel Forbes, Mississippi State, Maisie Smith, Michigan, Felix Anudike-Uzomah from Kansas State, who's a defensive end. What do you guys think? We also have DeJuan Jones in terms of offensive tackle. So you got Jones and Harrison at tackle. You got McDonald and Anudike-Uzomah at edge rusher and Forbes at cornerback. Do you guys want to take the safe route and roll with offensive tackle here? Or you guys feeling like some of those edge rushers or even Maisie Smith might be a better fit?
No, I like Mozzie Smith. Muhammad, by the way, it's Mozzie.
Mozzie. Okay, Mozzie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like him. I made him my first round pick in my latest mock draft. I think he's a really, really athletic player, which is kind of what that defensive line needs. You need some kind of combination of strength and speed, and I think you get that with Smith. He's a player who can play a 3-tech. In year one, you've got DJ Reader coming up on a contract year. I think there's a situation where, hey, if you like Mozzie as a 3-tech, that's great. He can get after the passer. He can kind of help you stop the run. But then in a year from now, you feel pretty comfortable about moving him to a nose. So I like Mozzie with that pick.
What do you think, Mike? You feeling Mozzie or you feeling something else?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think with that group available, he might be the pick. I'm interested to see. He's met with like almost every team. Teams are showing a lot of interest. Curious to see where he does end up if he keeps going higher, because he seems to be kind of rising at the right time. But I think in terms of positional need with that group available, I'd probably pick him over anybody else. Like I said, I don't think tackle's the greatest pick in the first round if you're going to keep Jonah Williams. They've kept Jonah Williams thus far. And so, in terms of best available guy, I think he fits better than McDonald, who I think is a better in a 3-4 system. I think it'd go Smith as well.
Yeah, I think if you were going to trade Jonah Williams, it would make more sense to pick an Anton Harrison or a DeJuan Jones, which I did have in my last mock draft. I actually traded Jonah Williams, which is why I selected DeJuan Jones. But I hear what you guys are saying on Smith. It sounds like the consensual pick. So we are going to pick Maisie Smith, defensive tackle out of Michigan, with the 28th overall pick. And we are cruising into the second round. And we are with the 60th overall pick, 29th pick of the second round, 60th overall pick. So just to kind of give you some more context on who's gone, Tyreek Stevenson from Miami Hurricanes went to the Chargers. Sam Laporta, tight end, went to Iowa. Matthew Bergeron, also an offensive tackle, went to the New York Giants. And, man, this one, this would have been nice if we didn't get Smith in the first round. Keanu Benton, defensive tackle out of Wisconsin, went to the Bills in the pick right before us. You also lose Isaiah Foskey, edge rusher from Notre Dame, went to Pittsburgh. So kind of looking at who's available, we've got Tuli Tuipulotu, edge rusher from USC, Nathaniel Dell, a wideout from Houston, Luke Weipler, center from Ohio State. Here's two interesting ones, though, I think we should look at. Julius Brents, who Andrew talked about, cornerback out of Kansas State. He's big on him. Garrett Williams, who Mike mentioned, out of Syracuse, also a corner. You also got Travius Hodges-Tomlinson at corner, Nick Herbig at edge rusher. Then if you go away from defense, you've got Zach Charbonnet as the highest-ranked running back available out of UCLA. You got DJ Turner, cornerback from Michigan, but I think probably the cutoff there is Charbonnet. What do you guys think? Should we go running back, pick Charbonnet, get that off the board, or is there a corner out of those names I mentioned that you guys like?
Well, so I'll let Mike kind of make the case for Zach Charbonnet because I know that he's kind of pounded the table for him in the past, or at least he's liked him because I'm going to have a different answer than Charbonnet.
Yeah, I do. I think he would be the pick. You need a running back. Obviously, he's the best one available right at this point, and I think that I think it's a realistic pick too. I know some of these draft simulator, I've done these before, and sometimes it just seems that they have a very different board than how it'll unfold. But I think he's going to be available or should be a realistic spot here for him. Does a little bit of everything. Obviously runs hard, but also can block, catch the ball. I think production was obviously, tremendous the last 2 seasons. Well seasoned, in terms of, experience, and I think it could give you something right away. So I've had him go in my, I think both mock drafts I've done here in the second round, I've selected him, and no reason that I would change now.
Andrew, do you lean that way, or do you think you got to get one of those corners I mentioned now, or do you just think maybe it doesn't matter either way? How do you feel about this pick?
Yeah, I've kind of made it clear one of my draft crushes this year is Julius Brents. I just think if you're going to invest in you're going to invest in a position like defensive back, which is so crucial. You got to do it early. That's kind of why I really like Mozzie Smith. You upgrade the pass rush. Now you upgrade the secondary. I understand that there's some holes still on offense, but it's really rare to get a guy like this. I mean, Julius Brents is 6'3". He's got 34-inch arms. He's 200 pounds. Ran a 4.53 40. Like he's a different kind of dude in terms of who he is physically. And I think that if you add a guy like that to the defense, I mean, you don't have to play. I think everybody kind of looks at, is he an outside corner? Is he a slot corner? Those are that's what you have to be. Like, I think you can kind of move him around. You kind of use him like a gadget player on offense, in year one where, hey, if we need to play him in the slot, if we're playing a tight end, a team that has a tight end that goes in the slot a lot, we'll put him there. You saw that a little bit with Trey Flowers when they had him. Hey, if somebody goes down and he's got to play on the outside for a game, he can do that. I just think, when you have that kind of athleticism and, obviously he's a talented player. I just think that, it's hard to pass on a guy like that, considering just how valuable cornerback is and, frankly, how not valuable running back is.
Mike, are you willing to compromise and roll with Julius Brents and hope a better running back is available, or are you very, very staunch on Charbonnet?
Well, I mean, it sounds like, by the way, it's Charbonnet. But,
Charbonnet, thank you.
It sounds you might be the decider here, Mohammed.
I really like what you're saying, Andrew. I had a cornerback in my second round in my last draft. It was Tyreek Stevenson, who I just mentioned is off the board. If he was available, I'd make a good case for him, but he's not. I just think there's a lot of good running backs and cornerbacks in this draft. Like, I'm sure there will be good corners available after this, but I mean, a 6'3" corner, which, I mean, that would kind of make up for the size you got from Trey Flowers, who I don't think is coming back. And the speed is there, like Lou Anarumo likes. The length is there, the athleticism. I think we're going to have to go with Julius Brents on this one, but I think we can try to prioritize running back in the upcoming pick in the third round. So here we go. 60th overall pick, Bengals select Julius Brents, cornerback out of Kansas State. And we're going to push into the third round with the 92nd overall pick. We are on the clock. Just to let you know who just came off the board. So
Charbonnet waited until pick 89.
So Charbonnet, well, we could have got him again. He went 3 picks before to the New York Giants. Jalen Jones, cornerback, it doesn't matter. He went to Buffalo out of Texas A&M. Let's see. Marvin Mims went to the Chargers, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Carl Brooks, a really good edge rusher from Bowling Green University, went to Jacksonville. Man, that is crazy. We almost double dipped and could have gotten Charbonnet. If he was on the board, I think we would have just made an easy one and picked him there. But dang, I'm sorry, Mike. Now I feel like you're going to be like, oh, Mohammed, I told you so. Well, let's see who we got available. So same names I mentioned from before are still available. Nathaniel Dell, Garrett Williams from Syracuse, Nick Herbig, interesting edge rusher out of Wisconsin. Anthony Johnson Jr., safety from Iowa State that Andrew and I have talked about. Chandler Zavala, guard from North Carolina State. Isaiah McGuire, edge rusher, Missouri. Jamie Robinson, another safety out of Florida State. Well, here's the best running back available, though.
What kind of tight ends and what kind of running backs are we
So that's what we're getting to here. I just wanted to knock out those.
Well, I was going to say, I would just say sort it by tight ends and running backs. I just want to see the board for those guys.
So, all right, oh, that's right. Yeah, you can do that. Never mind. Oh, sorry. We are playing with this for the first time ever. We are making it work. Okay, running backs, we've got Dwayne McBride, Tank Bigsby. Tight end, the best tight end available is Luke Schoonmaker. And then we also got Kendre Miller, halfback out of TCU. So you got Miller and Bigsby and McBride at running back and Schoonmaker at tight end. So I think those are your 4 best options there. Do we still want to pick one of those running backs, or do we want to go with Schoonmaker? Because I know, Mike, you made a really good case for him in one of your mock drafts. I think it was a week ago, right?
Yeah, I think he'd be a great pick here. Mentioned all the different sort of superlatives. He's a little bit older, so I think he'd be a guy that could be ready to step in right away, learn the playbook, and be effective. I think he has a real high upside as a pass catcher. He wasn't totally utilized like that until the last year and a half, and I think he's just taken off, but also can be a good inline guy, has size, athleticism. I think he'd be a guy that would fit what they like.
Andrew, do you want to take that?
That works for me. If we were to go running back, I would go McBride at this spot. If you're gonna go for a 1-for-1 Samaje replacement, I think McBride could be, kind of in that ballpark. But yeah, I mean, I think we have to leave this draft with a tight end and a running back. So I'm cool with going tight end now and kind of seeing what we can get a running back later.
Yeah, I think one of those 3 names that I mentioned, hopefully one of them is available. But yeah, I think Schoonmaker is a safe bet here. That is not a bad pick in the third round. I almost picked him in one of my mock drafts in the third round last week. I picked Davis Allen instead because Schoonmaker was taken. But if Schoonmaker was there, definitely would have taken him. So with the 92nd overall pick, the Bengals select Luke Schoonmaker, tight end out of Michigan. So I guess, yeah, we're pushing on. Guess that gives us 2 Michigan guys because we got Maisie Smith in the first round. So how about that? 2 teammates reunited. We are now in the 4th round with the 131st overall pick. So kind of taking stock here, Kendre Miller was taken off the board along with Rashawn Johnson, 2 running backs, Texas guys, Johnson out of Texas, Miller out of TCU. Moro Jomo, that's a defensive interior guy out of Texas I was looking at. If we hadn't picked Smith in the first round, I would have had my eyes on either him or Jaquan Roy, who was taken right before Ajomo. But as far as running backs available, we have McBride. Like Andrew mentioned, we got Tank Bigsby, Anthony Johnson Jr., safety out of Iowa State, who's also interesting. But obviously we're looking at running back. So do we want to just go with McBride on this one, or do you think there's a case to be made for Bigsby?
Oh, I think the case for Bigsby is that he's higher upside. I kind of mentioned that Auburn's situation was a mess. It's always kind of an S show down there in the Plains, or on the Plains, I guess. But you're talking about a player like, he was a really highly touted high school recruit, came into Auburn, and he had a really good start to his career, and then he just never really kind of took that next step. So like, the upside with Bigsby is that, if he hit, like if he's ready to play at the NFL level, he's a 3-down back almost immediately. I don't know if that's the case. I think, McBride probably gives you more of a Pirine replacement. So I would kind of lean McBride here over Bigsby.
Do you think McBride is more of a Pirine? I feel like I see more of a Pirine in Bigsby, just in terms of size and stiff arm ability. Not that
with Bigsby, I think that he's got more of kind of a 3-down role. Neither of these guys, I don't think either of them kind of have like an explosive burst that you would see from like a Devin Achane or somebody like that. But I think that with Bigsby, you can rely on him as a 3-down guy. It's just, how good is he going to be? McBride, I think, he's going to come in and kind of play a depth role, but it's just kind of whether you want to try and hit a home run or, like I said the other day, hit a single. I think McBride would be the safer pick just because you kind of know, he's coming from a group of 5 school, but I think you kind of know what you're getting.
Do you concur, Mike?
I don't know much about McBride, to be honest. So, it seems like a little bit smaller than maybe Bigsby.
He is a little bit.
But I'm looking at his bio and had not as much of a receiver. I don't know that Tank did much of that anyway. But I don't know. Either way, you're taking a flyer, 4th round. We could go with what Andrew suggested.
All right, stay with us. We're going to wrap up this eventful mock draft with our second half action, rounds 5 through 7. But before we do, we want to remind you guys to make sure to sign up for our Cincinnati Football Insider subtext service. And I've been talking a lot about it, but I know, Mike, you've sent some really fun analytical texts this week to our subscribers. Talk about some inside info you've given our subscribers this week.
Well, I think you're also underselling that it's a place for discussion back and forth, talking about how you feel this team's done in the off season, how teams in the AFC North, how it compares to your team, their rivals. I think that's kind of the fun part of subtext as well. That, fans can talk directly to us. We could do, things with, if they have questions or, for mailbags and things and, for the podcast, interesting observations or questions, we could talk about them here. So I think that's part of a fun part of subtext as well that, fans that sign up, I don't think would be disappointed.
You heard the man. Sign up for Cincinnati Football Insider. Go to cleveland.com/Bengals. Click on the blue banner at the top of the page. It's $4.99 a month, but you get a 2-week free trial to start, and you can cancel anytime. But trust me, based on what Mike said, you're not going to want to cancel. It's going to be well worth it. We'll be right back on the Strictly Stripes podcast. All right, thanks for staying with us on the Strictly Stripes podcast. We are in round 5 of our live in-action NFL mock draft. So we are at the 163rd overall pick. And just to kind of recap who we've gotten so far, we've got Maisie Smith. We just picked Dwayne McBride. We got Luke Schoonmaker at tight end. And we got Julius Brents at cornerback in the second round. I know that was a disjointed order, but that's who we've got. And now we're kind of getting into that, I don't want to say crunch time, but maybe garbage time, I guess you could say. Yeah, garbage time, which no insult to the last picks, but we're moving along and kind of look at who just went. I'm a little bummed by this. Carrington Valentine, cornerback out of Kentucky, was picked by the Vikings a few picks ago. That's a guy I would have looked at late round if he was the best guy available. Dontavion Hicks from Virginia, a wide receiver, just went to the Houston Texans. McClendon Curtis, an interesting depth tackle from Chattanooga, went to the Colts. So here's who's left. Mostly safeties kind of headlining the pack here. Got Anthony Johnson Jr. out of Iowa State, who we talked a lot about earlier this week when breaking down safeties. A lot of the Buckeye fans are going to like this. Ronnie Hickman is available. And if you're looking at some more defensive depth, you've got Keandre Coburn, another interior defensive tackle out of Texas. Pair of edge rushers, Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan and Viliami Fehoko from San Jose State. Yasser Abdullah from Louisville. I think, guys, there's an interesting case to be made for defensive end. I know we got a defensive tackle, but maybe you add another depth piece. But I guess would you do that, or would you rather lean towards taking one of the two safeties and kind of adding some depth behind Nick Scott and Dax Hill? What do you guys think?
What are we working at with tight end?
So you want to do another tight end? Let's see. A tight end. Oh, this is interesting. We have Davis Allen available. Surprised he's still on the board. I didn't even notice. Got Davis Allen. And as I look through the rest here, we got, here's another good one. I think you'll like this, Andrew. Josh Weil out of Cincinnati. So you got say again?
Wiley.
I can't say these names today. Josh Wiley. Thank you. Josh Wiley. That's those are your two best tight ends available, Davis Allen and Josh Wiley. Okay. But you also have.
I was curious if Kuntz was available, the kid from ODU. I think that would have been. I would have been intrigued by him as kind of a project to be your third tight end. But I'm good on tight end. All right, so let's go back to the top of the draft board then.
All right, we got, like I said, Anthony Johnson, who, Andrew, it's funny because you and I both picked him with this exact pick on each of our respective mock drafts. But Hickman's a little bit interesting. He's got some upside, too. I read about him a little bit. Wasn't available when I picked Johnson last week, but this time he is. Do you want to just take the safe bet at a depth safety? And if so, do you want to stick with Johnson again, or should we give Hickman some consideration?
I think
Mike, do you want to fill us in?
Or you want me to go? Okay. Yeah, I think Johnson would be a good flyer. I mean, a former cornerback. He's a bit of a project, but those kind of guys I don't think are bad at this point in the draft. You're obviously drafting, I think, for depth and a guy that could learn, but then, has the physical traits to do a lot of different things, could play that nickel spot. I think would be a good fit for Lou Anarumo's defense.
Yeah, I like
Andrew,
that too.
Do you want to stick with Johnson?
I mentioned with. Yeah, I think so, because I mentioned with Brent's, you kind of have like a gadget player in your defense. If you want to move him inside, outside, kind of all around, you can do that just because of his size. You could kind of do that with Anthony Johnson Jr. too. Like Mike said, former cornerback. You're talking about a guy who's really experienced at the Big 12 level, played a lot of games, played a lot of football. You feel safe about that pick. So I don't think he'll be there, but at 163, whatever we're at. But I think for now, I would take him.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's been working, stick with it. Anthony Johnson Jr. is the 163rd overall pick to the Cincinnati Bengals. Man, we are having fun with this. I actually enjoy these a lot. I love doing mock drafts. And now we go into the penultimate round of the draft, the 6th round. Bengals are on the clock with the 206th overall pick. Let's see here. So a lot of defense off the board here. Like, I'm trying to look here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the last 7 picks are all defensive guys. The only one that wasn't, Jordan McFadden, a tackle out of Clemson going to the Raiders. But you just lose Starling Thomas, Devontae Maxwell, Isaiah Land, Jared Clark, Anthony Johnson. Got Jose Ramirez and Yasser Abdullah still available. Those are 2 defensive edge rushers who were available in the 6th round who still fell on the board. But this is interesting. You've also got Bryce Ford Wheaton, a wide receiver out of West Virginia, who I mentioned on our podcast not long ago in terms of big receivers. He's 6'4". He's got that T. Higgins build. Now, obviously, he doesn't have the athleticism, which is why he's such a late pick, but you've got him, and then you've got the 2 edge rushers. If you want to go even farther down, you got a couple backup quarterbacks, which I really don't think the Bengals should entertain in this draft. But what do you guys think? Do you want to pick up an edge rusher for depth, or do you think maybe doesn't hurt to get some depth at wide receiver behind Tyler Boyd and Trenton Irwin? What do you think?
Well, we're in the 6th round here, so you're kind of drafting for for depth or for future years. So, man, the 2 guys that I would really kind of hone in on are Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback. I like him.
Really?
You need a backup. I think that there's a case to be made for every year taking a quarterback or bringing in an undrafted free agent, like a high priority undrafted free agent quarterback, because, again, it's the most valuable position in the sport. And, if Joe Burrow has to sit for 2, I mean, do you remember the conversation that was kind of being had about Tyler Huntley in 2021? He had 1 good game and everybody's like, would you trade a 2nd round pick for him? This happened. Matt Flynn got a huge contract because he had a big game when I think it was It was definitely Rodgers, when Rodgers sat for like a week 17 game. Like, it was. You need quarterbacks. So, I think you get a quarterback that can move, give you a different look. That'd be interesting. And then the receiver from WVU, Bryce Ford Wheaton, 6'4", 438. Like, that's a guy you come in, be your 5th receiver. You feel okay about that. So I'm good with either of those 2 options. Those would be my top 2.
Well, I also was going to say, too, I'm looking. Josh Wiley is also still available if you're feeling excited about him.
No, I'm good on tight end. The like I said, the guy that I was waiting on was Kuntz, and if there was, if you're waiting on him late, I'm okay with 2 tight ends. But I mean, we're good.
Mike, you think it's a stretch to pick a backup quarterback, or would you rather go Ford Wheaton or maybe even one of those edge rushers we mentioned?
Who are the edge rushers available again?
Jose Ramirez out of Eastern Michigan, Yasser Abdullah out of Louisville. If you want an interior guy, there's also Jonah Tavai from San Diego State and Jacob Slade from Michigan State. But those are the 2 edge rushers that are the best available.
Yeah, tough spot. Positionally, I do think you want an edge rusher. I'm not sure if either of those, at this point, I guess it's the 6th round. So, everybody's, kind of a coin flip. But, Abdullah, maybe. I think that his production is pretty good. Ran a 4.47 40-yard dash. I think he played linebacker. Was like an outside linebacker type.
He was
in Louisville's system, but convert him to a pass rusher and just have him, see quarterback, get quarterback. That might work. But not the greatest fit for the Bengals system. But I do think you need a defensive end here. But backup quarterback, I do think it's a need since you obviously haven't signed Brandon Allen. So, I mean, I'm okay with filling that here in the 6th round.
Sounds like you guys are both okay with a quarterback. I would lean more the edge rusher out just because I think you can get one in the next round. I think Abdullah is actually a really good edge rusher. I know Mike mentioned the positional fit concerns, but I mean, I just pulled up his PFF grade. He had about a 91 pass rush grade. Duke Tobin said they could use more juice in the pass rush. His teammate, Yaya Diaby, I think would have been better, but he was already off the board before any of the picks we had. If he was on the board, I would have made a heck of a case for him, but he's not. But it sounds like you guys are both okay with a quarterback. And you mentioned Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Is that who you mentioned, Andrew?
Yeah, you know what? The more that I think about it and the more I kind of lean towards it, I really like Jake Haener.
From Fresno State.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna say, because I said that Bryce Ford Wheaton and Dorian Thompson-Robinson were my top 2. I'm gonna say Wheaton's my number 1, or Bryce Ford Wheaton.
Okay. Wheaton, okay. I think that's a pick I can live with. Can you live with that, Mike? You think Ford Wheaton's okay to pick in this round?
So Andrew's done a reversal on his
Well, yeah, they were just the top two. I leaned Thompson Robinson, but then I saw Haener pop up on Muhammad's screen, and I was like, if Haener's there in the 7th round, I'd feel really good about that.
All right. I sided with you, then you just totally did a 180. Terrible.
Hey, this is how the War Room works. This is the Strictly Stripes podcast War Room, baby. All right, with the 206th overall pick, the Bengals select Bryce Ford Wheaton, wide receiver, West Virginia. And last but not least, the Bengals is Mr. Irrelevant, not the Mr. Irrelevant of the draft, but a.k.a. the Bengals' last pick, the 246th overall pick. And wow, Andrew, Dorian Thompson-Robinson was almost on the board, but he was picked 6 picks earlier to the New York Giants. And Yasser Abdullah was picked a few picks before that by the Green Bay Packers, so either of them could have been on board. Mike's a guy, Shamari Connor, safety out of Virginia Tech, was also picked. I just wanted to make an honorable mention for Virginia Tech because that's what Mike used to cover. But all right, here we go. This is interesting. So we got Jonah Tavai, who I mentioned, San Diego State interior rusher, Quindell Johnson out of Memphis, Jacob Slade out of Michigan State, that is another interior guy. There's really not much interesting stuff here. You got Troy Brown out of Mississippi at linebacker, Mikel Jones, got Jake Andrews at safety, Thomas Incoom, edge rusher, another edge rusher, Iowa State, MJ Anderson.
I look like Haener's gone. Damn.
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to see. I think he was picked. Trying to see who took him. Wait, no, I don't see him. Was he taken off the board? Huh. Oh, no, he was taken by the Saints, so I guess he's going to be Derek Carr's new backup. So, yeah, sorry about that, boss. Sorry about that, buddy.
Well, you know what? There's a quote that I really like. I think it was Ron Jaworski's book. I believe the offensive coordinator's name was Tom Moore, who used to coach the Colts. And they asked him, why don't you get the backup some reps back in Indianapolis when Peyton Manning was there. And Tom Moore stopped, looked around, and said, well, if 18 goes down, we're effed. And we don't practice. We don't practice effed. And that's one of my. So I think you can make the same argument. Sure, if Burrow goes down, this team is screwed. So you might as well not even worry about it at that point. Then. I still would bring in a quarterback. I still would. I mean, you still need one, but I mean, hell, I would if I were the Chiefs, I would be trying to bring in a quarterback every year too. Even I know Chad Honey just retired, but
man, you got to dig for a quarterback. It looks like. Yeah. Tyson Badgett. It doesn't even say what school he went to, and I had to click on the second page to look at quarterbacks. Yeah, there's not even any stats on him. Not worth it. Yeah, wow, we are really dry on quarterback, man. Now I'm starting to wonder.
Shepard, by the way.
Say that again.
He's a Division II prospect.
There you go. Yeah, I know. No disrespect to the D2 guys, but I mean, you got linebacker, you got interior rusher. You got one tight end who's an interesting guy. You've got Marshawn Ford out of Louisville. If you want to double dip there, assuming they don't bring back Drew Sampler, Mitchell Wilcox, maybe that's your solution. I don't know. Is there a case for him, or are there any other positions I didn't mention or that I did mention that you'd rather lean towards?
Go back up.
This is pretty much all a coin flip at this point, I think.
Yeah, go back up to the top.
So looking at the top, the best available is Jonah Tavai, again, interior rusher out of San Diego State. You also got Jacob Slade out of Michigan State. Those are two interior rushers. And, I mean, those are like 2 or your 3 best guys available. But I don't know if you want to pick 2 interior guys. I'd rather pick an edge rusher at this point because we haven't even done that. Sure. So I don't know.
I have no preference because I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on these guys. So
yeah, I don't even know at this point. Mike, do you want to help us here? You have any insight for this coin flip of a 7th-round pick?
Well, I think linebacker's not a bad pick here because you're looking for special teams contributors. Jones is a guy that fits their 4-3 system, but then also is athletic enough to be that guy, the kind of guy that contributes on special teams. Marcus Bailey, Clay Johnston type of role. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at this point in the draft.
Yeah, I think that's probably better, and that's kind of like what they did with Bailey. He was actually picked around this exact pick, 7th-round pick out of Purdue. I think you might as well go with that. I think it's okay to kind of pass on an edge rusher because you got Terrell Bashman free agency and you still have Joseph Ossai and Cam Sample behind them. But yeah, I think, like I said, you got 3 linebackers going into a contract year. One of them is Bailey. I guess, no, technically 4 because you include Bocce. Yeah, 4 of them going into a contract year, so why not? Why not? Let's just knock it out of the park. With the 246th pick, the Bengals select Mikel Jones, linebacker out of Syracuse. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our first ever Strictly Stripes podcast live mock draft. So we're going to get a grade here from PFF, and we're going to get positional grades. Wow. Okay, before I say pick-by-pick grades, our overall draft grade was an A, guys. We got an A. Look at that.
First time
How
for
about
everything.
that? Yeah. I was about to say, all mine have either been a B+ or a B-, so that's a first for me. Have you guys ever gotten like any A grades on your drafts?
Oh, all the time.
Oh, that's a lie. I know you had a B at one point, Andrew. Right? I think you even said it in your
Yeah,
article.
I mean, whenever I want to have fun, but yeah. I mean, I'd be a really good GM, so I always get A's.
Ah, okay. All right, Les Snead, Duke Tobin, whatever you want to call yourself. Okay. Maisie Smith was a B+. That was our first pick at number 28. Julius Brents was an A. So shout out to Andrew. He kind of steered us in that direction. He was an A pick in the second round. Third round, I don't know how I feel about this. I actually disagree with PFF. They have Schoonmaker as a D grade, but I had Allen in the third round in my mock draft last week, and that was a D. So I guess PFF just doesn't think the Bengals should pick a third round tight end. Oh, well. But, man, we're on a roll here from this point. Dwayne McBride, 4th round, A. Anthony Johnson, safety, Iowa State, 5th round, A+. Bryce Ford Wheaton, West Virginia, A+. Shout out to Andrew on that. He steered us with that 180 reversal that Mike called it. And then shout out to Mike for this. Mikel Jones was a B+, so that was a good 7th round pick. Man, I am proud of us, guys. That was actually really good. Now the key for us next week is to make sure we go from an A to an A+. So putting the pressure on you guys. Get ready. Next week when we do this again, I expect A+ material. But congratulations, fellas. We won the draft, hopefully, potentially. Well, stay with us because next week we're going to do more throwbacks, look backs at previous drafts the Bengals have had, maybe do some crossover pods with our friends from Buckeye Talk, and maybe even the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. But once again, for myself, Andrew, and Mike, I'm Muhammad Ahmad. Thanks for joining us on this Bengals mock draft edition of the podcast. See you on Monday.